Okay, so welcome to the deep dive. You guys have sent us some really wild material this time.
Yeah, this is
Excerpts from a podcast called Unsolved Crime Tapes. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to dive deep.
I love that
Me
podcast.
too.
Yeah.
I think it's really well produced. Um,
He's so creative.
yeah. And I love how they kind of present like a narrative,
Mhm.
you know? They
Like you're listening to a scary story.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
around a campfire.
Exactly.
But you know they're real.
Yeah, they're real.
Right.
Yeah. So this show, as you know, tackles some really puzzling cases.
Yeah.
The ones that just like stick with you.
Yeah.
And the ones that you've highlighted for us are definitely no exception.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, let's see, Brandon Swanson's Vanishing Act, The Haunting Highway of Tears, and the bizarre events at Dyatlov Pass.
A lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So our mission today is to really get under the skin of these mysteries,
Mm-hmm.
pull out the key details, and really kind of explore why these particular stories continue to grip our attention.
Mm-hmm.
I think they all kind of represent different aspects of the unknown.
Yeah, I mean they each have their own like flavor of mystery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Brandon Swanson is just like, where did this dude go?
Yeah.
Like he was literally on the phone with his dad, and then poof.
Oof.
The Highway of Tears is just so tragic. Like, how can so many people go missing or turn up dead? No one has answers.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah. And then you have Dyatlov Pass, which is just straight up weird. Like, what really happened to those hikers?
Yeah,
It's like something out of a horror movie.
it really is.
Right.
So yeah, let's start with Brandon Swanson, shall we?
Okay.
Let's set the scene.
All right.
So May 14th, 2008.
Oh, I remember where I was in 2008.
Do you? I do too.
Yeah.
Okay, so May 14th, 2008, Marshall, Minnesota. You've got Brandon, 19 years old, just heading home after celebrating the end of his college semester. Pretty normal scenario, right? But then his car goes off the road, and he's on this gravel road. Seems like a pretty minor setback.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely driven on some sketchy gravel roads in my time.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
It happens.
It happens. You think, okay, he's fine. Just a little fender bender. But what unfolds from there is just anything but ordinary. So he calls his parents for help, which, again, seems like a pretty logical next step.
Absolutely. I mean, what else would you do in that situation? You need a ride, your car's messed up, call mom and dad.
Exactly. He's talking to them. He's trying to get them to his location. And this is where it takes a really weird turn. His parents arrive at the location that he described, and he's just gone.
Wait, seriously?
Gone. Think about that for a second. You've got this car crash. You're on this rural road. It's not a place where someone can just easily disappear, especially not that quickly.
No, not at all. Especially if you're on the phone with someone the whole time.
Exactly.
Right. You would think they would hear something, or at least Brandon would say something.
It's this sudden absence that really kicks off the mystery, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The wrecked car is like the last piece of the puzzle we have, and then he's just gone, like a ghost.
Yeah, and then we get to this part, what Unsolved Crime Tapes calls the last phone call.
Yeah.
It's chilling. I remember listening to that part. So he's on the phone with his dad, still trying to guide them there, probably a little frustrated at this point, and then out of nowhere, you just hear him say, "Oh," and that's it.
Like nothing else.
Dead silence. The line goes dead.
Oh, wow. That's terrifying. It's
Yeah.
like your mind just immediately goes to the worst possible scenarios. Did someone grab him? Did he fall into a ditch? Like, what happened?
And the podcast episode really lingers on that moment.
Yeah.
They let the silence hang there.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to feel the weight of that. What did that even mean?
You just keep replaying it in your head, that and then nothing. It's so unsettling.
Yeah, it sticks with you. And of course, what happens next is exactly what you'd expect. The authorities launched this huge search. I mean, they really went all out. It went on for months. And despite all that effort, all that time spent looking, they found nothing.
Nothing. No clues, no signs of a struggle, nothing.
Nothing. It's like he just stepped into another dimension.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So what are the theories?
Well, naturally, when there are no answers, you get theories.
Right. Right.
And the podcast touches on the main ones, drowning in a nearby river or an abduction. But the thing is, there's no evidence to support either of those, or any other theory for that matter. I mean, that's what makes this such a captivating mystery, right?
Total mystery. No closure. It's almost like the more we know about the case, the less we actually understand.
Exactly. Okay, so let's move on to the second case you sent us. This one is just so heartbreaking. The Highway of Tears. This episode of Unsolved Crime Tapes shifts the focus quite a bit. We go from this one isolated disappearance, which is baffling in its own right, to this decades-long series of disappearances and murders, all along the stretch of road, Canada's Highway 16.
I've heard of this. Isn't that the highway that runs through like some really remote parts of British Columbia and Alberta?
Yeah, exactly. The name Highway of Tears is so evocative. It just speaks volumes about the tragedy.
Yeah, it's a pretty bleak name for a highway.
Yeah, it really captures the reality for the communities along that route. And it's particularly tragic for Indigenous women and girls.
Right. That's what makes this case so complex and heartbreaking. It's not just a mystery, it's a social issue.
Yeah, and the podcast does a good job of really kind of underlining that. So the big questions that they raise that really linger are, who is responsible for these disappearances and why have so many of these cases just gone unsolved?
Yeah, that's the frustrating part. Why haven't they caught whoever is doing this? Or if it's multiple people, why haven't they stopped it?
Right. And we're not talking about a handful of cases here. This has been going on since the 1970s. You have all these young women disappearing or being found murdered. Some were hitchhiking, which the episode points out was often necessary because there was no other reliable transportation in the area.
Right. If you don't have a car or can't afford a bus ticket, what are you supposed to do? It's a tough situation.
Yeah. Others just vanished without a trace, going about their daily lives.
It's just so scary. You're just going about your business and then boom, you're gone.
Yeah. And the theories that Unsolved Crime Tapes throws around are pretty disturbing. I mean, you've got the possibility of a serial killer, maybe even multiple serial killers. You have human trafficking rings. And the worst part, which they really highlight, is this really profound lack of justice in most of these cases. It's just decades of unanswered questions for families. They don't know what happened to their loved ones. They don't have closure. It's really sad.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, right? Like, is this just a case of bad luck or is there something more going on? Like, is someone actively trying to cover these cases up?
And that leads into this really crucial part of the Unsolved Crime Tapes episode, where they talk about this pattern of neglect.
Oh, yeah, the families have been saying that for years. They feel like they're being ignored, like their loved ones don't matter.
Exactly. They feel like their cries for help were just ignored, especially early on.
And it's not just a feeling, right? Like, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that the police didn't take these cases as seriously as they should have, especially when the victims were Indigenous women.
And it's just this feeling that these victims weren't given the same level of attention and resources. And that's a really hard pill to swallow. So the podcast brings up this really important question. Is this just systemic injustice? Are there biases within the law enforcement system that led to this? Or, and this is really unsettling, could there be even more sinister reasons for why there's been so little progress in these investigations?
Yeah, like maybe someone is actively trying to keep these cases quiet. It's a pretty dark thought, but you can't rule it out.
Exactly. The whole thing leaves you with this really uneasy feeling. All right, so for our final case from Unsolved Crime Tapes, buckle up, because we're going to a totally different environment and just a bizarre and perplexing event, the Dyatlov Pass incident.
Oh, this is the one with the hikers in the mountains, right?
Yeah. This one has haunted me ever since I first heard about it.
Yeah, it's a classic mystery. I've read a lot of theories about this one.
Me too. It's like a rabbit hole. Okay, so Unsolved Crime Tapes sets the stage for us. 1959, the Ural Mountains. Super remote and unforgiving, especially in the winter. You've got 9 experienced hikers going on this trek.
And they all died, right?
They all died.
But, it wasn't just a normal accident, right? It was something weird.
Weird is putting it mildly. So you have these 9 seasoned hikers. They're going into this remote mountain region in the dead of winter. And they're all found dead in the snow.
Yeah, okay, that's tragic, but yeah, it could happen. I mean, mountain climbing is dangerous.
I hear you. But here's the thing. The details surrounding their deaths are just bizarre. We're not talking about just exposure or falling. Some of them were found with missing eyes.
Missing eyes.
Missing eyes. Some had crushed bones.
That's creepy.
And then, to make things even weirder, some of them had no external signs of trauma. Like, what?
That doesn't make any sense. How do you get
What?
crushed bones with no external injuries?
That's the million-dollar question. The podcast calls this section the chilling discovery. And they really lay out just how strange the scene was. Their tent was found slashed open from the inside.
From the inside. Why would they do that?
That's what's so weird. It makes you think they were trying to get out in a hurry.
Like they're being chased or something.
Yeah, and get this. Some of the bodies were only partially dressed, even though it was freezing.
So they ran out of their tent in the middle of the night in the freezing cold, half naked. That's insane.
That's what doesn't make sense.
What could have possibly scared them that badly?
Yeah. These were experienced hikers. They knew the dangers of the mountains. And you're right, what could have possibly made them so terrified that they ran out of their tent in the middle of the night, some of them practically naked?
It had to be something really, really scary.
It had to be. And then there are the injuries, these specific and brutal injuries. How do you explain that?
Yeah, those injuries are the real mystery. They just don't add up to any normal explanation.
Okay, so let's get into the theories, because Unsolved Crime Tapes spends a good chunk of time unpacking these.
All right, hit me with them. I'm ready for some wild theories.
Okay, so you have everything from avalanches, which, okay, that's possible, but it doesn't really explain everything.
Yeah, how do you explain the missing eyes and the internal injuries with an avalanche?
Exactly. And then you have the more far-fetched ones like secret military experiments.
Ooh, like some kind of top secret weapon test gone wrong?
Yeah. Or maybe they stumbled upon something they shouldn't have.
Yeah, that's always a classic theory.
Yeah, and of course, you can't talk about Dyatlov Pass without mentioning the supernatural theory.
Yeah.
Yeti did it. That's one of them.
Yeah.
And then there's, the idea that maybe the area is cursed or something like that. But really, it just goes to show how desperate we are for some kind of answer, even if it's a crazy one.
Yeah, I mean, when something this weird happens, it's hard not to go down those rabbit holes. Our brains are wired to look for patterns and explanations, even if they're totally out there.
Exactly. Yeah. And the worst part, there were no survivors to tell the tale.
That's what makes it so frustrating. If only one of them had survived, we might have some answers.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. And despite all the investigations over the years, countless theories, it's still this massive mystery.
A true unsolved mystery. It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
Yeah. So that's it. We've gone through 3 wildly different cases from Unsolved Crime Tapes. You've got Brandon Swanson just vanishing, this really unsettling case, and then the tragedy of the Highway of Tears, and finally, the bizarre deaths of the hikers at Dyatlov Pass.
They're all so different, but they all share that same thread of the unknown. Like, we just don't have the answers, and we may never have the answers.
It's a reminder that despite all our technology and advancements, we're still pretty clueless about a lot of things.
Totally. It's humbling, in a way.
So now it's your turn. Out of these 3 mysteries, which one do you find the most unsettling? What is it about that particular case that sticks with you? And why do you think that aspect of the unknown resonates with us as humans? Think about it and let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, we want to hear from you. What keeps you up at night?
Until next time, stay curious.
And a little bit scared.
And a little bit scared, yeah.
Hee.
Okay, see you next time.